Good morning. I'm Donald Capps. I'm the chairman of the Board of Curators, and we're very happy to be back at the UMKC campus today and yesterday. It's been a great couple of days. Yesterday, the campus announced that it had exceeded its capital campaign. And this afternoon that we look forward to joining Chancellor Morton in the groundbreaking for the new Free Enterprise Center. And it's great to see so much progress here and of course being around the students and the faculty just brings enthusiasm to what we do. So, Tim.
Thanks, Don. Good morning. I'm Tim Wolf, President of the University of Missouri System. I have the good fortune today to give an update on the progress that we've made on our strategic plans that are on our 4 campuses and at the system. We're halfway through the goal setting, the 5-year goal setting that we have, and we're on plan to achieve the goals that each of the campuses in the system have established. Some highlights of the strategic plan update this morning that I made are we have all-time high in terms of the students, over 77,000 students on our 4 campuses. We also have all-time high in the quality of our students as measured by ACT, as well as we have the most diverse population on our 4 campuses that we've ever had. All key indicators in that we're trying to attract the best and the brightest students in the state of Missouri as well as outside the state of Missouri. We talked a little bit about expectations in terms of the future and continued advancement towards achieving those goals and resetting goals as we continue to move from good to great across our 4 campuses in the system. I'd like to open it up to what questions you might have.
Hi. In light of yesterday's horrific events, shooting on campus, I just wanted to ask you, I know this is a question or something you guys have dealt with, or talked about at least for many years now, but having 4 campuses, all of them open, what is it that college campuses or you, Missouri campuses can do? What do you do to protect your students from that type of situation, or is there anything that can be done?
Well, can I answer?
Sure.
It's a great question, Marie. First of all, our thoughts and prayers go out to the families of those students in Oregon. It's just sad. So directly to your question, what are we doing to try to protect our 4 campuses? We need to make sure that we have a safe and secure environment in which students, faculty, and staff can realize their career or student ambitions. To do that, it's about educating students, educating faculty on a variety of things. We want to try to spend as much time and investment in the prevention of these unfortunate situations versus just responding to these situations. So we take a look at what are indicators for a potential crisis like that and try to take a look at those indicators and put preventive mechanisms in place to try to keep a crisis from occurring. We have recently done what's called a desktop exercise where we simulate crises across our 4 campuses and make sure that the processes that we have in place to react to that crisis, we get to exercise those before a crisis exists. So we have done that. We also have updated our emergency response manuals, and we have that emergency response manual not just for all 4 campuses. And in putting that together, we've got the best and the brightest, an advisor consultant that's on our MU campus that has helped work with response teams and police departments over the years. He helped guide us through what is the best practice relative to the reaction to a potential crisis like this. So we are doing everything that we can to ask the question, are we prepared to respond to the crisis? If we can't answer that question confidently, then what is it that's missing? And we try to identify what's missing and make sure that we solution those gaps that we've got. And we have to do this on a continuous basis. In other words, we've got the plan in place. But when you have the plan in place and the process defined in the plan, are you checking to make sure that you can actually execute that process? And you do those through the simulations of desktop exercises. And those are happening across our whole 4 campuses, so that it gives us confidence that we can prevent but also react in a timely basis to prevent the crisis from spinning out of control.
What about the discussion of metal detectors? How feasible or unfeasible is that whole concept of metal detectors on the campus?
Metal detectors, I mean, those kind of decisions as to what kind of preventative technology or locks on doors. I mean, there's all these things that we're really leaving to the local campus police and local leadership to determine what is the best thing that you want to do. You want to, I mean, there is advantages, obviously, of having an open campus and having the free flow of people and ideas without it being restricted or in lockdown mode. So we would like to maintain that and also promote that these are environments where good things happen, not bad things happen. And so that's what we're trying to do. But in terms of a specific tactical investment like metal detectors, we leave that up to local leadership to make those kind of decisions.
I'd like to add, I don't know if you were present for the presentation on mental health. That's one of the things that we're trying to emphasize is preventive mental health services to prevent situations from happening. So that's one thing that we're doing.
How exactly do those desktop exercises work? Sorry, caution.
Great. So good question. The way the desktop exercise works is you have to have a leader of the desktop exercise, and the leader happens to be the one that worked with us in putting the best practice, codifying the best practice in our emergency response manuals. And so the leader is the one that initiates the desktop exercise. And so you have the leader that's in place, and we identify the date, then we invite the participants. And we did a desktop exercise that was specific to the system. And then based on that, we said we need to do something that it's a crisis that is beyond the borders of the system. It is beyond, it affects all 4 campuses. So the last desktop exercise that we simulated affected all 4 campuses. And so the leader, we get everybody together, and in this particular instance, we used telepresence as a way of communicating. And then we walked through the exercise, and it was an exercise that starts off with one event. How do you respond to that? Then it gets more complicated with a second event, then a third event. And the way that we did it was when the event comes, then we have everybody go offline, and each of the local campuses started to solution what are the next steps for that event. Obviously, they go to the emergency response manual first and say, okay, what are the things that we're supposed to be doing? So when they start to work on it, then we get everybody back after a period of time, and they talk through, here's, based on the information we know, this is the additional information that we're going, here are the steps that we took to react and prepare for this. And so we went through that campus by campus, and then then it gets worse. And here's another factoid in the simulation. Then it gets worse, then it gets worse. And so you continue, as a normal crisis would happen, is you continue to try to assess the exposures, what you're doing at this particular point in time, making sure that our communications are in line, because sometimes when you're in a crisis, somebody's got to take point, somebody has to be making the decision, you got to clarify who that is and how you can use differing forms of communication in the event that like your cell phone landline goes down, how do you communicate? So we go through that particular exercise in a way that flushes out all the ideas and exposures, and then as part of that, we identified, well, some things need to be changed in the manual, and some things need to be changed. And so we do that on a regular basis as these desktop exercises.
I guess you mentioned academic freedom today and the importance of that in relation to the mission, and why do you feel that was an important statement to make to the board today?
Well, there's a lot of conversations that are occurring that in papers like yours and other papers about the motivation behind a decision. And it's important that the motivation behind a decision takes into account academic freedom and making sure that we're fulfilling our mission. it also has to be considered as to the research that we're doing. And conversations about the type of research that we are doing have come up in years past and have been resolved. We will always be mindful of state statute, federal statute, or whatever, and everything that we do will correspond and support the law, be it from a federal or local law. But it's important for people to recognize that when something comes up that looks to be strange or looks to be politically incorrect, what was the motivation behind that? And what we want to make sure that we're doing is considering that academic freedom is a major underpinning in who we are and what our purpose is and how we serve all Missourians. And we have to invite discourse. We have to invite there's different opinions. We have to not just accept, but look for it and promote those kind of conversations, because out of those conversations come great ideas. Out of those conversations, it brings communities together in a unique way that gets people centered on common goals, and we can move forward as a society. And I brought that up, Megan, because there's a lot of conversations that are occurring right now that question the value of academic freedom. And it's not just unique to our state. We're seeing it in other states, and we need to protect that.
I have a question along those lines. When you're talking about, I understand that academic freedom is paramount when you're talking about a university community. Also paramount is our dollars, and how do you deal with when academic freedom and dollars are in contrast to one another? In other words, that, for example, University of Missouri is under attack for some of its research from a particular segment of the legislative body that also impact dollars that are granted to the institution. When those two things come in contact, what position? Talk about the position that puts an institution in.
Well, so you have to make decisions based on who you are, and you have to make decisions based on the long-term view, not the short-term view. So what you don't want to question is your ethics or morals. What you never want to minimize is academic freedom. So if there is a situation that it's the right thing to do ethically, morally, it supports academic freedom, but there's consequences to it, financial consequences to it, so be it. We have got to stand for who we are and make sure that we're fulfilling our mission. That's not to say we won't invite and have lots of conversation about it, but we want people to appreciate and understand what drives us is about discovery and dissemination, application of knowledge. That's what makes our society stronger. And if there are financial consequences to it, so be it. We'd like it not to be, and we believe if we can have the right conversation with the right people, people will not be penalizing us for fulfilling our mission. So, good question, and sometimes they're at odds with each other. I recognize that, but we need to stay true to who we are.
Time for one more.
Well, what about the criticism that breaking the contracts with Planned Parenthood is sacrificing that academic freedom on the NU campus?
Breaking the contracts. There was contracts that weren't being used.
Right.
Correct. There was one contract that was being used and still in place.
Right. There were still some contracts with the nursing school, though, right, that the nurses went to.
Correct. I don't know the particular contract, but there was some that weren't being used that have been sunsetted. There is one that's continued to be used. And as we look at that contract or any other contract in the future with Planned Parenthood or any other entity, we need to make sure that we're within state statute in terms of they're very clear in state statute in terms of what you can use public resources to do and not do. So we need to make sure that we're within state statute. But we also have to make sure that we are thinking about the academic freedom and thinking about what we want to do for society. And so that's what we're looking at for each of the contracts that exist or the contracts that we'll get in the future.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.